This is my faith, my voice, my faith, my voice.
مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. يا خير من يمم العفون ساحته، يا خير من يمم العفون ساحته، سعيا وفوق متون الأيقون الرسوم. ومن هو الآيات الكبرى لمعتبري، ومن هو النعمة العظمى لمغتنم. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير.
I don't believe that it does. For centuries, women have had more rights in Islam than they have had in this country alone.
Islam in no way encourages the oppression of women. Women are seen in high regard as they are seen as equals to men. So in everything, they are expected to be treated with respect and dignity and as fellow human beings. And not in the way that sometimes in cultural situations or the way the media might portray it, that sometimes women are treated as second-class citizens or lower than men. This isn't true at all, and this has nothing to do with Islam in any way.
Islam does definitely not encourage the oppression of women. In Islam, for 1400 years, women have had the rights to have their own property, and their husband has no say in what they would do with their property. It belongs to them. Even if they have more than what their husband has, he still has no right to do anything with that unless she freely wants to help him out. And women also all the time would go and give their opinions about things, and they were consulted. The Prophet, peace be upon him, also would consult his wives when he was, thinking of certain decisions about things. So Islam has given these rights to women way before the West was able to provide that for women.
No killings are justifiable in Islam. I think unless in the case of war and you're defending yourself.
Honor killings are not justifiable in Islam. Islam encourages peace, and in fact the word Islam comes from the Arabic word salam, which means peace. So violence is really looked down upon if you can avoid it. And so these honor killings are basically coming from cultural practices or things that even took place before Islam. And it in no way establishes what Islam teaches. Islam teaches to be kind, to be considerate, to be nice, merciful, and this kind of thing. And we know that God in the end is the only one who can judge. So in these cases, it is not our right or the right of the man to go and kill these women for usually no reason at all.
On the topic of honor killings, they have absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with the religion of Islam. And in the media, unfortunately, there are people who are considered Arab and Muslim, and they have committed some of these acts, but they in no way are a part of Islam. They are actually a part of culture. Even ancient Egypt, they used to do honor killings, and so this practice is more a part of culture that people have passed on from generation to generation, but you can find in no place in the Quran, in the life of the Prophet, in his, sayings that he has, we call them hadith, that anywhere does it say that honor killings are acceptable.
No, actually, men are equal. Men and women are equal in Islam. Men have more responsibilities, but that's because they take care of the women, they support the women, but never to oppress or belittle or anything like that.
Islam teaches that men and women are equals. In no way are men better than women. Islam, everywhere in the Quran where it says that a man should do something, it also says that a woman should. So it says you believing men and believing women must do such and such. So it doesn't exclude women in any way. And Islam also acknowledges the importance of women, especially as mothers in the community, and how much of an important role that is. So women are seen in a high regard in Islam and not in a derogatory way at all. The only way this might come in that people might think that men are seen as better than women is that men have more responsibilities, but that doesn't mean they're better because they're different. They have different responsibilities that they need to do, but in the end they're still equal.
In Islam, men and women are considered equal in the sight of God. They have different roles that they play, but men are not considered to be superior and it to be like a male-dominated society. It is only men. They're responsible for all of the required practices in Islam, like prayer and fasting and giving money to the poor and making the pilgrimage to Mecca. These are all things that are equally required for both men and women.
No, hijab is by choice. Of course, it is told to us that we should wear hijab, and it's encouraged that we do wear hijab, but it is ultimately our choice to make the decision to commit to it, and once you do, it is a lifelong commitment.
Women cannot be forced to wear hijab. If there's a woman wearing hijab, it's because she chose to do so. We know that God tells us to cover ourselves from the gaze of men, because in the end it's only benefiting us, because we believe that our sexuality and our attractiveness is not something that just anybody should be able to look at. So we cover ourselves as a sign of humility, and so that men will see us for who we really are, our personality, our character, our morals, instead of whether or not we're attractive. So in the end, women are the ones, they have to choose to make this decision, even though it's something that they should do because in the end it's beneficial. Nobody can force them to do it.
Women in Islam are not forced to wear hijab. It is a commandment from the Creator that we do cover our beauty, and that's the purpose behind the hijab. And what it means is that we are protecting ourselves. First, it is a demonstration of modesty, and secondly, we are not showing our beauty to other people who may harm us because they have intentions that we don't necessarily have. So we do our part as a protection for ourselves, and that's why we wear hijab. It's not because the men are oppressing us and forcing us to do this, but just knowing the nature of men and women. Men, this is something that they are going to look at the beauty of women, and we only allow the ones who care about that woman to see her beauty. So the husbands, the fathers, the sons, the grandfather, the uncles, these are the people who can see the beauty because they love that person and care about them, not just anyone from the street who may have bad intentions. So the hijab is something that although women, like in any practice in religion, they can choose to do it or not choose to do it. And that's going to be between them and God. But as far as Islam, yes, we are required to do it, but we're not forced to do it. We do it for the sake of God and to obtain His mercy and blessings.
No woman could be married against their will. It is the woman's choice. So choose a way, women.
In Islam, women cannot be forced to marry. In the end, it comes down to their choice. So if they choose to marry somebody, they can, and if they choose not to marry somebody, then they cannot be married to that person. There was a story in the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, peace be upon him's time, where a woman came to him and said that her father had married her to somebody against her will. So the Prophet then went and spoke to the father, and he said that her marriage was actually void. It did not count because she had been forced against her will. So if she wanted to leave the marriage, she was able to do so. So this is an example of how women, they cannot be forced into a marriage because it goes against the principles of Islam of peace, and also because in the end it would be harmful to both the man and the woman in that relationship.
In Islam, women are married to whom they choose. There is no compulsion for a woman to have to marry someone that she doesn't want to. And even there was a case of the Prophet, peace be upon him, where a woman came and she was forced to marry someone that she didn't agree with, and he gave her the choice. He said, if you don't want to be married to that person, then you don't have to be. And so this is something, again, it comes back to people are not following the teachings, the stories that you hear about. These are cultures that have fallen away from the true Islamic teachings, and there are people that do practice forcing their daughters to marry certain people for whatever reason, but this is not Islamic practice. We are free to choose, and we are if we are forced into such a thing, we are not obligated to commit to that because it's against our will.
Polygamy is allowed because we know that God is the creator of mankind and He knows what is best for His creation. And so in the Quran, it says, marry women of your choice in 2s and 3s and 4s. But if you fear that you cannot deal justly with them, then marry only one. So this basically is saying that men can marry up to 4 women, but they have to be able to treat them fairly. And so this is the thing, and if they cannot do so, then they're only allowed to marry one wife. So this comes, they have to treat them fairly financially, emotionally, they can't harm them or anything like this. So this is something that a lot of people tend to take advantage of, and they don't follow the rules of how a polygamous marriage should be. And also because there are a lot more women in the world than men. So if every single man in the world got married, there would still be women left over who did not have a husband. So this is also as a protection for women. So instead of women being in extramarital affairs or having these kinds of relations where the man in the end is not responsible in any way for the woman, if they're married, then the man is responsible and he has to take care of this woman and their children instead of just leaving her high and dry or something like this that tends to happen in Western culture.
In Islam, all of the rulings, the Sharia that already was mentioned in the video, are for the protection of society. And this is what Islam cares about. And so when you're talking about polygamy, this is the case that, first of all, just by natural occurrences, in human beings where men tend to be the ones killed in fighting. They also, even just being born, a lot of the time they are weaker and tend to die. And as a result, there have been, just by these different types of things, more women in the world than men. And so if that's the case, then there's going to be women out there that never have a chance to be married if it's only 1-to-1. And so in Islam, it's allowed for a man to marry up to 4 wives as long as he can be fair to each of the wives, which means he gives them the same, based on, you know, their requirements, he has to provide for them in a fair manner. It doesn't have to be equal. So for example, if a woman has only 1 child and another one has 5 children, they're not going to get the equal amount. They're going to get what's fair to take care of them and the same standard of living. And so in this way, it protects society so that the man, if he is going to marry more than one, then he has to, you know, be responsible for whatever children they have, as opposed to in the West and many parts of the world, they have girlfriends or mistresses, and then these people, they have children that are illegitimate, and a lot of the times the father's not responsible for those children. So who is the loser then? That woman does not have those same rights, so she's losing, and at the same time any children that are a result do not have the same rights, so they also lose out. So this is a way to overall protect the society.
Islam encourages the seeking of knowledge. So I would, by that, I would say yes, women are allowed to have an education. In fact, many Muslim women that I know have gotten very high degrees in education.
Women are definitely allowed in education. Actually, not only allowed, but extremely encouraged to seek knowledge. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said that it is a duty upon all Muslims, so males and females, to seek knowledge, because with knowledge comes power, and with power comes great things. So women are definitely encouraged, and even in the time of the Prophet, women not only received education, but they were also teachers to other people. There were even women who taught men. So this is something that in today's society, there are cultural things that take place where they say no, women cannot have an education and something like this, but this is not Islamic in any way.
Women in Islam getting an education, this is something that the Prophet, peace be upon him, he said that it's compulsory on every Muslim to learn from the cradle to the grave. So it is something, as we mentioned before, that it's equal between men and women. There's no distinction between the two. We both are responsible for being educated. And this is something that, you know, many women, there are many Muslim women all over the world that have, you know, very high degrees. I myself have a master's degree. So it is not something that is not happening, and it is not something that Islam encourages even women to get the education, unlike examples that you hear about like in Afghanistan where the women, they're not able to go to school. These again are examples of cultural problems, but not Islamic issues, because in Islam many scholars in the past were women, and even one of our mothers, we say, of the believers in Islam was Aisha, and she was one of the wives of the Prophet, and she is one that we have learned so many things because she was a scholar.
Yes, actually they can. It's not required that they do, but if you can afford, if you and your husband, your situation can afford it, and afford you not to have a job, that's a luxury that you may have. But if it helps out with the family, or even to take care of yourself or loved ones, to help out, added expenses, by all means, you are able to have a job.
Women are definitely allowed to have a job if they so choose, but if they do not want to have a job, they do not have to either. It is the responsibility of the husband to take care of his wife and his family. But at the same time, if a woman would like to have a job for independence, or maybe because she wants to deal in something that makes her feel better about herself to help other people, this kind of thing, she has every right to do so.
Muslim women are definitely able to have a job. Their primary job is raising a family. We consider this the highest honor and most distinguished job that anyone could have, because you are raising a generation. And so this is like the ultimate in responsibility and praise and dignity. But there are people who are able to also go out and have other positions in the community, and this is not discouraged. You are able to, we need, as women, we need teachers, we need doctors, from many different types of jobs. And the only thing is, like I myself, I'm currently not working because I'm focusing on my family, but I have taught at a college, I've taught in elementary and high school before, so it's something that is necessary and many women are able to do it, but at the same time, always, if we have children, that's our primary focus, because that is going to be the next generation, and we feel very honored to have this position.
وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك